Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties, Chapter 79.
You know, it's funny. We spend so much of our time pretending that the world runs on logic.
Right.
We have laws, we have protocols, we have these 5-year plans. And we really like to think that the people in charge, the ones running empires or huge companies, are making decisions based on data.
Based on reason. But when you actually look, that's not really how it works, is it?
Not even close.
If you look at the big turning points in history, they almost never pivot on a spreadsheet. They pivot on a mood.
Or a grudge.
A grudge, a moment of jealousy, or, as we're going to see today, a single clumsy mistake involving a shoe at a garden party.
Which sounds completely ridiculous, but we are looking at a moment that arguably, broke the back of the Tang Dynasty.
We did.
Chapter 79 of Sui Tang Yani, The Romance of the Sui and Tang. And the author, Tu Renhu, he isn't just telling a juicy story. He starts this chapter by basically picking a fight with Confucian philosophy.
He really does. He frames the whole narrative around this ancient battle between...
which is reason or principle.
Exactly. And king, which is more like emotion, passion.
Right. And usually the good guys in these stories, they follow reason, they follow the rules. But the text opens with this thesis that basically just says, forget it.
Emotion is the great equalizer. That's his argument, that you can have the most disciplined men in the world, but eventually, king is going to get them.
It's a fascinating way to set it all up.
It is, because he uses these incredible historical examples to prove his point. He doesn't just say, oh, people get emotional. He points to specific, hardened figures from history.
The toughest of the tough.
Yeah, I mean, basically the Navy SEALs of Chinese antiquity, and he shows how they just crumbled.
We should probably unpack those because they really set the stage for how much trouble the emperor is about to get into. The text brings up Suwu.
Oh, Suwu.
Now, for anyone who might have skipped Han Dynasty history, Suwu is the ultimate tough guy.
He's the poster child for resilience. He was an envoy sent to the Xiongnu nomads.
And they took him hostage.
They did. They tried to force him to defect, and he refused. So they threw him in a cellar with no food. The legend is he survived by eating snow and chewing on the felt from his own clothes.
That's insane. For how long?
19 years. He spent 19 years as a shepherd in the freezing wilderness, holding on to his imperial staff.
So this is a man who values duty over literally everything.
Comfort, food, safety, you name it. But the text points out a little detail that, well, that often gets glossed over.
Right.
The author basically says, look at Suwu. He ate his own clothes rather than betray his emperor, but even he, out there in the ice, he eventually married a Xiongnu woman and had children.
It's such a humanizing detail, isn't it?
It is.
You could be tough enough to eat snow, but you can't survive total isolation. You still need connection.
And then the text brings up Huquan from the Song Dynasty. He was exiled to the far south for 10 years.
Which was basically a death sentence back then.
Oh, yeah. Malaria, isolation. He survived it all. But when he finally got home, he didn't write policy papers. He spent his days drinking in a garden with his beloved concubine, Li Qian.
So the author's argument is, if these guys, men who survived torture and exile, couldn't resist the pull of emotion, what chance does Emperor Xuanzong have?
Exactly. Xuanzong isn't starving in a cellar. He's living in the Kaiyuan era, the absolute peak of Tang wealth and power. He has zero hardship.
So if Suwu broke,
Xuanzong doesn't stand a chance. It's like the author saying, buckle up, because this is about to get messy.
And it all starts with the emperor's search for the perfect partner.
Enter Zhang Keiping.
We know her better as Meifei, the plum concubine. And I have to say, her resume reads less like a concubine and more like, I don't know, a prodigy.
She was incredibly impressive, comes from a wealthy family in Pearl Village, and the text makes a real point of saying she was precocious. At age 9, she's not playing with dolls, she's reciting the Book of Songs.
And she tells her dad she wants to be like the virtuous women of antiquity.
Right, so she has the brains, but she also has this very specific brand. She is obsessed with plum blossoms.
And that symbolism is important, right? The plum blossom isn't just a pretty flower.
Not at all. In Chinese culture, it blooms in winter. It stands for resilience, purity, a kind of cold, aloof beauty. It's not a warm, flashy peony.
And she really lived that brand. Her father built her a plum pavilion, and she didn't just sit there, she was a writer. The text says she wrote 8 fu on the plum blossom. Can you explain what a foo is? Because my understanding is that's not just like scribbling a rhyme.
Oh no. A fu is a rhapsodic prose poem. It is notoriously difficult to write.
Okay.
I mean, you need an exhaustive vocabulary, a deep knowledge of the classics, mastery of rhythm. Writing one fu is a huge achievement.
And she wrote 8 of them.
8. About Plum Blossom, she was also a master of the Chinziver, chess, calligraphy, painting.
So when the high eunuch, Gao Lishi, finds her at 16, he isn't just bringing the emperor a pretty face.
He's bringing him an intellectual equal. And the emperor he's immediately gone, smitten. He showers her family with gold and silk, and he renames her Guifei, the plum concubine.
He loves her whole aesthetic.
Totally. But there's this one moment right at the beginning of their relationship that's a bit of a buzzkill.
No.
The emperor is praising her, comparing her to the flowers, and she gets really quiet and drops this prophecy. She says, "I fear when the plums fall and the moon wanes, I will be left cold and lonely."
Wow. She's smart enough to know that royal favor is seasonal.
Exactly. It has a bloom time and then it's gone.
And the emperor, being the romantic he is, swears an oath. He invokes the flower god, right?
He does. He says, "I will never abandon you," which is just classic famous last words.
Of course it is.
The text is setting us up. We have this plum, woman-cold, virtuous intellectual, but we know the emperor is driven by passion. And passion.
Well, intense adrift.
Which brings us to the party. The
Rough.
infamous scandal at the Plum Garden. This is where it all goes wrong.
And the setup is important. It's a family gathering. The emperor is hosting his brothers, his nephews. It's a boys' night in the royal garden.
And the drinks are flowing.
Oh, yeah. Specifically, this rare, potent wine called Precious Dew. Everyone is getting loose. The emperor calls Guifei out to perform. She plays the white jade flute. Then she dances the frightened swan dance.
And so she's the elegant star of the show.
Absolutely perfect. And the emperor, feeling generous, tells her, "Guifei, go pour a drink for my brothers."
And this is the mistake.
This is the mistake. She goes to pour wine for Prince Ning. Now, Prince Ning is the emperor's older brother, and he has had way too much of that precious dew.
He's drunk.
The text says intoxicated, and as he reaches for the cup,
Yeah.
his foot extends and touches her embroidered shoe.
Oh, okay, hold on. In our time, that's just awkward footsie under the table in the Tang Dynasty court. That's like a nuclear disaster, isn't it?
It's catastrophic. You have to remember the hierarchy. She is the emperor's woman. Touching her shoe isn't just clumsy, it's a violation. It implies a sexual advance.
And this is where her whole plum blossom personality kind of backfires on her.
It really does. If she were a savvy political operator, she might have laughed it off, save face for everyone.
But she's not. She's reason. She's virtue.
And she is deeply insulted. The text says she turns color, flings her sleeves, and just storms out of the party.
She just leaves.
Yeah.
In the middle of everything.
Immediately. Abandons the emperor and all his guests. When he asks where she went, the attendants are terrified. They start making up excuses. Oh, her shoe ornament came loose. Oh, she has chest pains.
So the party just dies. The vibe is ruined.
Instantly. But the real drama is happening back at Prince Ning's house. He wakes up the next morning, the hangover finally clears, and he realizes what he did.
And he's terrified.
He thinks he's going to lose his head. I mean, he basically molested the emperor's favorite concubine in public. He needs a crisis manager. Fast.
So he calls Yang Gui. And we need to talk about this guy because he is the ultimate operator. He's the prince consort, the emperor's son-in-law.
And he looks at this mess and comes up with a plan that is... It's diabolical genius, honestly.
It really is.
Yang Hui knows that if Prince Ning just goes in and says, "Sorry, I touched your shoe," he's admitting to the crime, he's making it about the woman. Yang Hui says, no, make it about the brother.
He weaponizes family values.
Precisely. He tells him, go to the palace bare-chested, which was a sign of deep shame, walk on your knees, and apologize for being a drunk fool in front of your older brother.
So he's completely reframing it. He's not the creepy guy who touched the concubine.
Yo, he's the humble little brother begging for forgiveness, and it works perfectly. The emperor sees his own brother crawling on the floor, weeping, and suddenly the emperor is trapped. He's trapped by Li, by reason and reputation.
Because if he punishes him now...
If he punishes him now, the history books will say Emperor Xuanzong cared more about a concubine's shoe than his own brother's life. He'd be seen as valuing lust over family.
A huge Confucian taboo. So to protect his own brand as a moral leader, he has to let Prince Ning off the hook.
And he does. He says, you didn't mean it. Let's forget it. And this is where the story should end, right? Crisis averted.
But Yang Hui, the fixer, he isn't done.
Not even close. He spots an opportunity.
This is the part that just blows my mind. Yang Hui looks at the emperor and realizes
Yeah.
he isn't just relieved, he's actually a little annoyed.
He's annoyed with Guifei. From his perspective, she made a scene. She embarrassed him. Her virtue, that cold plum blossom integrity, it suddenly feels like a burden. She's high maintenance.
So Yang Hui decides to solve the Guifei problem while he's at it. He just starts upselling. He says, Your Majesty, you have 30,000 women here, but you still look unsatisfied.
He's basically saying, Guifei is great, sure, but she's a bit prickly. You know who you should meet? Yang Yuhuan.
Okay, stop. We have to make sure everyone understands exactly who Yang Yuhuan is at this moment.
Yang Yuhuan is the wife of Prince Shou.
And Prince Shou is the emperor's son. I want to scream at the text here. Literally 5 minutes ago, the emperor forgave his brother because he didn't want to look like he valued lust over family.
I can't punish my brother. That would be immoral.
And now Yang Hui is suggesting he take his daughter-in-law as a concubine.
I mean, it is the definition of incest. It violates every family bond imaginable.
And what does the emperor do? Does he say, How dare you suggest I steal my son's wife?
No. He asks what she looked like.
The hypocrisy is just. It's off the charts.
It proves the text's opening argument completely. Reason is just a mask. When Yang Hui describes her, quoting Prince Shou's own love poetry about her, no less, the emperor is hooked.
And the description of her is the total opposite of Guifei, isn't it? She's described as soft, warm, sensual.
Exactly. The emperor's bored with the plum. He wants the peony. And because he's the emperor, he just tells Gao Lishi to go get her.
The scene where they take her from Prince Shou's palace, it's not romantic. We think of them as this great love story. But the origin is basically a kidnapping.
It's a tragedy. Gao Lishi shows up. Yang Yuhuan has no idea what's happening. She asks why she's being summoned, and he gives this non-answer. But she knows. She turns to her husband, Prince Shou, and says, I thought we would grow old together. I guess this is it.
And Prince Shou.
He's powerless, he's a prince, but against the emperor, he's nothing. The text says he just holds her hand and weeps as he watches his father's servants drag his wife away to his father's bed.
There's that one devastating detail the author throws in, the couplet about the mirror.
Yes. When she returns to the carriage, he should ask if she has her mirror.
What does that mean, exactly?
Well, it's multi-layered. On one level, it's about vanity, that her beauty is all that matters now, but it's also a reference to the broken mirror, a classic symbol for a separated couple. It's emphasizing that she is now an object to be looked at.
She's becoming a reflection of the emperor's desire.
And that casual cruelty is just brutal. Meanwhile, Guifei is back in her plum pavilion, probably thinking this will all blow over. She has no idea.
She's relying on that flower god promise.
But the text says the red thread of fate has already shifted. Her own prediction came true. The season changed, the plum blossoms fell, and she was left cold.
Meanwhile, there's this very specific sinking feeling that I think is universal.
That moment.
Yeah, that moment in a relationship or, even a friendship where the dynamic just shifts.
Right.
You're the favorite, the go-to person, the center of someone's world. And then all of a sudden the air just leaves the room.
The texts stop coming.
Exactly. The inside jokes don't land anymore. And you realize with this kind of cold dread that you're not just being drifted away from, you are being replaced.
It's a primal fear, really, the fear of obsolescence, of being traded in for a newer...
The newer model, yes. And usually when we talk about this, it's in the context of like a high school breakup or maybe a corporate reshuffle.
Yeah.
But today, we are taking that feeling and dialing it up to 11. We're dropping it right into the center of the most opulent, cutthroat environment imaginable, the imperial court of the Tang dynasty.
Where the stakes are just a little bit higher than a high school breakup. We're talking about exile, life, death, the fate of an empire.
And I have to say, reading through this source, it is so cinematic. It's not dry history at all. It's got secret identities. It's got slapstick comedy with eunuch's nose.
Which we will get to.
Oh, we will. And it all culminates in what I can only describe as a weaponized poetry slam.
Weaponized is the perfect word. This chapter, it captures such a pivotal moment. For a long time, Emperor Xuanzong was devoted to Guifei, the plum concubine.
She was the old style, right?
Exactly. Slender, intellectual, sort of aloof, like a plum blossom in winter. But this, the moment the season changes. Enter Yang Yuhuan, the woman who would become the legendary Yang Guifei.
And this isn't just a simple love triangle.
Sure.
It's a collision of two completely different worlds.
Two different aesthetics, even.
Yes, the brutal elegance of this whole transition. Bureaucratic gymnastics required to marry your own daughter-in-law.
Which is a big one.
A huge one. The sheer pettiness of harem politics, and finally, that garden confrontation where words are used like daggers.
So let's start with the new arrival.
The text sets this scene with Empress Xuanzong and Yang Yuhuan, and the lighting is just. It's incredibly moody. It describes the palace being lit by silver candles and moonlight.
It feels very intimate, doesn't it? Almost dreamlike.
It does.
And that lighting choice in the text, it's not an accident. It creates this filter. Xuanzong is looking at her under the lamp in moonlight, which kind of softens reality. And the description of Yang Yuhuan here is just dripping with luxury.
It really is.
The text mentions her eyebrows are like moth wings,
Okay, I have to pause there. Moth wings. To my modern ear, comparing a beautiful woman to a moth sounds, well, it sounds like you need some cedar blocks.
Right.
What is that actually supposed to mean?
It's a very specific classical image. So think about the antennae of a silk moth. They're fine, they're curved, delicate, but it also refers to the color, a sort of dark, greenish-black pigment they use for eyebrows.
Oh.
So it implies fragility and a perfect arch. And the text pairs this with her clothes, a butterfly skirt and phoenix silk.
And the way she moves sounds mesmerizing. The source talks about these gold ornaments she wears by Yao that tremble when she walks.
Bu Yao, it literally translates to step shake.
Step shake.
Yeah, these were these intricate hairpins with dangling pendants. And what's so brilliant about that detail is that it dictates how she has to move. You can't just stomp around wearing bayao. You have to glide.
It implies a very specific swaying walk.
Like a willow branch in the wind. Yes.
It's just this total sensory overload. You have the shimmering gold, the moonlight, the silk. And then the text hits us with this absolute mic drop of a line.
Oh, this one's famous.
Looking back with a smile, 100 charms appear. The powder and paint of the 6 palaces fade into nothingness.
It's one of the most famous descriptions in all of literature. It's basically saying that her one smile renders every other woman in the entire empire completely invisible. They're just background noise.
But this is where the story gets really, really complicated. Because you can't just, pick up a woman like that and install her in the palace.
Especially not this woman.
Right. Because, as the source points out, she had a previous job title, Wife of Prince Shou.
And Prince Shou wasn't just some random noble. He was Emperor Xuanzong's son.
So, let's just be absolutely clear. The emperor wants to marry his daughter-in-law.
Correct. And in a society built explicitly on Confucian hierarchy and filial piety, this is a massive taboo.
It's incestuous.
It is. You cannot just promote a daughter-in-law to a consort. The entire bureaucracy would revolt.
So I was reading about the solution they came up with in the text, and it honestly reminded me of money laundering. But for people.
That is a fantastic analogy.
They laundered her identity, didn't they?
That is exactly what it is. It's identity laundering. The text details how they asked her to become a female Taoist priest, a nun. They gave her the religious name Taizen.
Kaizen, which means supreme truth.
Supreme truth.
That is so rich, considering the whole thing is a lie.
The irony is definitely there. So she moves into the inner Taizen palace to practice her faith. The logic was that by entering a religious order, she severed all her earthly ties.
So the woman who was Prince Shou's wife just ceases to exist.
It's gone. In her place is the spiritual being Taizen. And once enough time had passed.
Taizen the nun can be invited into the harem as a totally new person. Oh, who's this? It's a lovely nun I met. It's so audacious.
It is. It shows that in the Tang court, the appearance of following the rules was often more important than the reality. Everyone knew what was happening. It was an open secret.
But as long as the paperwork was clean.
The court could look the other way.
And once that paperwork is signed, man, the floodgates of favor just burst open. The source talks about her family getting promoted instantly. Her father becomes the minister of war, posthumously.
Her uncle and brother get high ranks.
But the detail that really stuck with me, and this feels so specific to the emperor's own paranoia, is the cousin.
Ah, young Zhao.
Right. The emperor likes him. He wants to promote him, but he has a problem with his name.
This is a real deep dive into the superstition of the time. The character for Zhao contains a component that looks like a metal knife Jindao.
Oh?
And Xuanzong, like a lot of emperors, was obsessed with omens. He saw a metal knife and immediately thought, violence, assassination, usurpation.
So he just rebrands the guy on the spot.
On the spot. He changes his name to Guzong, which literally translates to loyal to the state. It's the emperor trying to manifest loyalty through a name. Like, I'll give you power, but your name is going to forever remind you who you work for.
It's so possessive, just like the gift he gives young Yuan. The text mentions a hairpin of purple grinded gold that he places in her hair himself.
It's this very intimate gesture of claiming her. So we have this picture of absolute saturation. Saturated with gold, with titles, with love. Young Yuan and her whole family are just basking in the sun.
But every sun casts a shadow. And sitting in the dark, miles away in another palace, is Guifei.
The plum concubine.
The shift in the text here is so jarring. We go from silver candles and laughter to Guifei sitting alone, asking her maid, why hasn't the emperor visited in 2 days?
2 days, it sounds like nothing to us. But in the hyper-competitive ecosystem of the harem, 2 days of silence is an alarm bell.
It's a break in the pattern.
It is. Yeah. She knows intuitively that the wind has shifted.
So she sends her maid, Yanhong, to go investigate. And this leads to a scene that I honestly did not expect to find in a classical romance. It's straight-up slapstick comedy.
It's a wonderful human moment.
Yanhong goes to the garden and finds Gao Lishi, the most powerful eunuch in the empire, asleep on the job.
Right. This terrifying figure of authority just dozing off in a corridor.
And Yanhong doesn't just wake him up, she pranks him. The text says she picks a flowering peach branch, sticks it in his hair, and then takes a tender twig and tickles his nose.
It's this fantastic contrast. You have this heavy, tragic political reality looming, but here are two servants playing a practical joke. It shows their familiarity.
Right. They've probably known each other for years. So Gao Lishi wakes up, sneezing, I'm guessing, sees Yanhong, and the mood just crashes. She asks, where's the emperor? And he basically tells her, honey, you don't want to know.
He's brutally honest. He tells her the emperor is at the South Palace. He tells her about the new favorite. He tells her about all the promotions. He just lays it all out.
And when Yanhong goes back and delivers the news to Guifei, the reaction isn't anger, it's devastation. The text just says, 2 tears flow, and then she looks in the mirror.
That mirror scene is critical. She looks at herself and laments that her beauty is wasted. You have to understand, for a concubine, beauty isn't just vanity, it's her career.
It's her survival.
It is. To be beautiful with no one to look at you is to be rendered useless. She feels like an abandoned house.
But Yanhong, the maid with the nose-tickling twig, she is the MVP of this chapter. She refuses to let Guifei wallow. She says, don't sit here crying. Dress up. Go to the South Palace. Confront them.
It's a call to arms, and Guifei answers it. The description of her getting ready is like a warrior putting on armor. She wipes the tears, she reapplies the powder, puts on her ornaments.
She gathers her entourage. She is marching into enemy territory.
Yep.
So she gets to the South Palace. She finds Emperor Xuanzong standing in the shade of some flowers. And the awkwardness, I mean, I was cringing reading it. He sees her and asks, what wind blew you here?
And her response is so sharp, she just says, the south wind.
Which works on 2 levels, right?
Absolutely. Literally, she walked from the north, so the south wind is in her face. But metaphorically, south wind refers to the South Palace.
She's saying, the wind of your betrayal brought me here.
Exactly. And she follows it up immediately. I heard you have a new favorite. I'm here to congratulate you.
She just calls his bluff to his face. And the emperor, the son of heaven, he panics.
He does.
He tries to dismiss Yang Yuhuan. He says, oh, this is just a wildflower I picked up. She's nobody.
Just a wildflower. I mean, imagine hearing that. He's trying to protect Yang Yuhuan from Guifei's scrutiny, but he does it by demeaning her.
He's desperate to keep them apart.
He knows mixing the old favorite and the new favorite is a chemical explosion waiting to happen.
The Guifei insists. She basically says, I'm not leaving until I see her. So he caves. He calls Yang Yuhuan out. And now we have this tableau. The emperor, the ex, and the new girl, all sitting around drinking wine.
The air must have been thick enough to cut with a knife.
And then the emperor makes a tactical error that I just cannot wrap my head around.
It is a catastrophic misread of the room.
He decides the best way to smooth things over is to ask Guifei, the woman he just dumped, to write a poem praising Yang Yuhuan.
He thinks Guifei is intellectual. She's a poet. She can use her talent to bridge the gap. He wants a nice, polite compliment.
He handed her a microphone.
And he forgot that poetry in the Tang Dynasty wasn't just decorative, it was a vehicle for political critique. He handed her a microphone and she decided to use it.
Okay, let's really break down this poetry battle. Because on the surface, if you just skim it, it sounds kind of flowery. But the subtext is vicious.
It is. Mei Fei goes first.
And what's the first key line she writes?
Leaving the clouds of Wushan.
Clouds of Wushan. Sounds romantic. Nature imagery.
And that's the trap. In Chinese literature, clouds and rain of Wushan is the standard euphemism for sexual intercourse.
Well,
By saying Yang Yuhuan left the clouds of Wushan, Mei Fei is publicly in front of the emperor reminding everyone that Yang Yuhuan has a sexual history.
Specifically with the emperor's son.
She's calling her used goods.
Wow. That is not subtle if you know the code. And the second part of her attack, she writes, "Beautiful Jiang Qian, half is for you."
And this is where the body shaming comes in. You have to remember the context. The Tang dynasty was famous for shifting the beauty standard from slender to, well, voluptuous.
Right. Yang Guifei was the icon of this fat beauty. Mei Fei was the slender beauty.
So when she says half the landscape is for you,
She is saying, you take up too much space. She's calling Yang fat, excessive, vulgar.
pretty much, you are blotting out the scenery with your bulk.
So she hands this poem to the emperor. He reads it, maybe misses the insult or pretends to, and hands it to Yang Yuan. Look, she wrote you a poem.
And Yang Yuhuan is not stupid. She reads it, and the text says she immediately recognizes the mockery. She sees the attack on her virtue and her weight. So she picks up the brush.
She fires back. What does she write?
She starts with a seeming compliment. Plum blossoms and snow are pure.
Okay, addressing Mei Fei directly by her name, Mei.
But then comes the pivot. If the spring wind is borrowed early, do not compete with new flowers for color.
Do not compete with new flowers. Oof.
It's a devastating counterattack. First, by saying plum blossoms and snow, she's calling Mei Fei cold, thin, lacking vitality compared to the spring.
But the real dagger is the second half.
The real dagger is you are out of season.
You're expired.
Exactly. You are yesterday's trend. I am the spring. I am the new flower. Don't even try to stand next to me because you will just look faded.
So Mei Fei calls her a fat adulterer, and Yang Guifei calls her an irrelevant old hag.
Essentially, yes. This is high-stakes diplomatic insult trading. The text says the colors became discordant. The tension is at a breaking point.
And the emperor is just sitting there, probably wishing the ground would swallow him whole.
And this is where our friend with the itchy nose, Gao Lushi the eunuch, steps in to save the day.
I love how he does it. He doesn't tell them to stop fighting. He uses a playlist.
It's brilliant statecraft. He can't order the consorts to shut up. They outrank him. So he just starts rambling about music. He lists the names of famous tunes, stringing them together to form a sentence.
Walk us through this.
He says something like, the emperor and the two beauties are doing the step-by-step charming. That's a song title. He mentions Moon Over Begonia, another song. He's painting a picture of a party using only song titles.
It's like if two people were fighting today, and I jumped in and said, hey guys, don't stop believing we're all in a Bohemian Rhapsody, let's just have good times.
That is exactly what he did. But he builds up to a very specific punchline. He uses the tune title, Kuai Hu Sen,
Which translates to,
three-way happiness.
oh my.
He is explicitly suggesting a ménage à trois. He says, why worry about who's charming? Just enjoy the three-way happiness. He frames the solution as shared servitude.
He's saying, stop fighting over who owns the emperor. You both belong to him. Just make him happy together.
That's it. It's incredibly bold.
I can't believe he said that.
But because he framed it as a joke, using song titles, he gets away with it. The text says the two ladies hear three-way happiness, and they start giggling.
The tension breaks.
It completely breaks. They laugh at how clever he is. The anger just dissolves into amusement.
And the emperor grabs onto this life raft immediately. He says, Gao Lishi is right. I have two beauties. Why am I stressing? Let's just enjoy this.
And he takes them both by the hand, and they all head back to the palace. It feels like a resolution.
It does.
Yeah.
The clever servant saves the day. The women lash. The emperor is happy. But we know how this ends. We know the history.
And the text itself gives us a little warning, doesn't it?
It does. The narrator drops a very chilling comment right at the end of the scene. It says, Mei Fei's nature was gentle and slow.
Gentle and slow. In any other context, those are compliments.
In the harem, they are fatal flaws.
Exactly. The text implies that because Mei Fei was slow, meaning she lacked the killer instinct, she wasn't aggressive enough, she was doomed. This moment of three-way happiness was just a ceasefire. It wasn't peace.
And eventually, Yang Guifei stops sharing.
She does. The text notes that Yang Guifei, who was jealous and sharp, eventually slanders Mei Fei. The new flower chokes out the plum blossom.
Mei Fei is exiled.
to the Shangyang East Palace completely displaced, left to write sad poems until she dies during the Aleutian Rebellion.
It really changes how you see Yang Guifei. We usually hear about her tragic death, strangled with a silk cord, the victim of history.
Right.
But in this snapshot, she's the predator.
That's the value of sources like this. It shows us the messy middle. Yang Guifei wasn't born a victim. She fought her way to the top. She was sharp, defensive, and willing to crush a rival to secure her spot in the moonlight. The silver candle only shines on one person at a time, and everyone else is just waiting in the dark.
You know, when we think of the Tang Dynasty, especially Emperor Xuanzong's era, we get this highlight reel, right? The golden age of poetry, expanding borders, all this incredible cultural wealth.
On the one hand, you have the Son of Heaven, this divinely appointed ruler of, everything. And on the other, you have a man who has totally lost control of his own home.
And because he's the emperor, his home is the state.
That's exactly. His domestic sphere is the political sphere. And that's what makes this particular text so powerful. It's not just some bedroom comedy. It's a diagnosis of imperial decay.
And we should probably clarify for everyone listening, because I know we have a lot of history buffs out there, that Xuanzong Yanyi is not, a primary source.
Right. Very important distinction.
It's a historical novel written centuries later in the Qing dynasty. So what we're reading isn't a transcript of what actually happened. It's more like how later generations tried to make sense of the Tang's collapse.
They're looking back and asking, how did it all go so wrong? And this chapter gives a very pointed answer. It's the emperor's personal weakness.
The author is basically using this whole drama to critique what happens when power doesn't have discipline.
Precisely. In this chapter, chapter 79, it centers on this love triangle that's really a microcosm for the huge Aleutian rebellion that's just over the horizon. You've got Emperor Xuanzong, who's getting older. He's nostalgic.
You have Yang Guifei, the current favorite, who kind of represents this era of excess and massive influence.
And then there's Mei Fei, or Lady Plum. She's the ex, and she represents a past that was maybe more disciplined, more austere, a past the emperors left behind.
So let's talk about that nostalgia. It kicks off with Xuanzong just wandering through the plum garden. Seems innocent enough, but really, it's a psychological break, isn't it? He's trying to escape the reality of his own court.
That's a great way to put it. He's looking for comfort. The text says he feels the sudden longing for Mei Fei. But notice how passive he is. He doesn't just go see her.
No.
He lurks in the garden and sends a proxy. He sends Gao Lishi, the infamous eunuch who's basically his fixer.
He's trying to have it both ways. He wants the comfort of his past, but he doesn't want to upset the power structure of the present.
And Gao Lishi has to go make this terrible idea happen. He goes to the Shangyang Palace, where Mei Fei has been, for all intents and purposes, exiled. The description of her isolation it's pretty bleak.
She's like a ghost in her own home.
Totally. And when Gao Lishi shows up, her reaction is really telling. She's not angry at first, she's just shocked. But the second he says she needs to come secretly.
Oh, everything changes.
Everything changes. She gets it immediately. She asks, if he's the emperor, why does he have to sneak around?
And then comes the line that just defines the whole chapter. She asks, why is His Majesty afraid of that fat maid?
It is just scathing.
It is. But we need to unpack that fat comment. Because I think to a modern listener, it just sounds like body shaming. But there is a massive cultural war happening in that little insult.
You are so right. It is not just about weight. It's about values. It's about aesthetics. Mei Fei represents the earlier Tang, ideal, slender, elegant, maybe a bit more restrained.
And Yang Guifei is the high Tang style where, fullness and roundness were celebrated. It was a sign of health, of wealth.
Exactly, of abundance. So by calling her a fat maid, Mei Fei isn't just attacking her body. She is attacking the entire era of excess that Yang Guifei has come to symbolize. She's calling the emperor's current taste, and by extension, his entire rule, vulgar.
And calling her a maid, that's a status jab.
A huge one. But despite all the insults, she agrees to go. The emperor sends a horse from the Pear Garden to get her, and I wanted to flag that detail. The Pear Garden wasn't just some stable, was it?
No, not at all, and that's a detail that can get missed. The Pear Garden was the Imperial Arts Academy. Music, performance. It was this center of high culture that Xuanzong himself created.
So by using a horse from there for a secret hookup, he's basically misusing state resources. Cultural resources, even, for this sordid little affair. Just shows how blurred the lines have become for him.
Okay, so she arrives.
Yeah.
And the reunion scene is so schizophrenic. On one hand, it's genuinely tender. He helps her off the horse, they cry. It seems real.
It does. But then they start drinking, and that whole fat versus thin debate comes roaring back.
He says she's gotten thin.
Right, and she uses it as an opening. She basically says, well, I'm thin because I'm sad, unlike some people who are fat and happy. She is baiting him. She wants him to say she's better.
And the emperor just refuses to take the bait. He pulls this classic diplomatic move, laughing and saying, both have their benefits.
Which is the most cowardly response possible.
It really is. It's the response of a man who stands for nothing.
Exactly. He's trying to keep the peace with a woman who isn't even in the room. He's defending the person he's hiding from. It just shows his total paralysis. And that paralysis leads to the critical mistake. They get drunk and oversleep.
And this is where the story shifts from, like, a sad romance into a political thriller.
Yes.
Because in the Tang court, oversleeping is not just hitting snooze. It means you've missed morning court.
Right. Morning court is the absolute heartbeat of the empire. All the ministers gather at dawn. The emperor hears reports, makes decisions. It's the theater of government. By missing it, he is committing a huge dereliction of duty.
And who catches him? It's not a minister. It's Yang Guifei.
Of course. She wakes up, he's gone, and her intelligence network just activates. Her servant tells her everything. And her reaction isn't just jealousy, it's a tactical mobilization. She marches to that pavilion.
And the text says the guards are panicking. They're more afraid of her than of the emperor.
And that tells you everything you need to know about the real power dynamic. They don't stop her. They run to warn him.
Yeah.
And this is the scene that just destroys Xuanzong's dignity.
He hears she's coming, and instead of standing his ground, what does he do? He shoves Mei Fei behind a screen.
It is so undignified. We are talking about the illuminated emperor, the ruler of China at its absolute peak, hiding his ex-girlfriend behind the drapes like a teenager caught by his parents.
It's the perfect visual for his reign at this point. He's literally hiding from the consequences of his own actions. So Yang Guifei storms in. She knows. The room probably reeks of wine and perfume. But she plays it cool for a second. She asks, "Why is your majesty up so late?" And he lies. He says, "Actually, you're early."
A pathetic lie. And she just tears right through it. She starts scanning the room like a detective at a crime scene. She points out the scattered food, the messy bed.
And then the smoking gun. The pearl shoes and the emerald hairpins on the floor.
The evidence is undeniable.
But I found her attack so interesting. She doesn't just scream, "You cheated on me." She yells, "You slept until sunrise and haven't held morning court yet. What kind of system is this?"
It is a brilliant move on her part. She's clothing her personal rage in the language of public duty.
Yes.
She's shaming him for being a bad emperor, not just a bad boyfriend. It gives her the moral high ground, even though her motive is pure jealousy, by asking, what kind of system is this? She's making herself the guardian of order.
It's so clever. She basically tells him, go to work. And this is the moment I expected him to finally, stand up for himself. But he doesn't.
No, he just crumbles. He pulls the covers back up, turns his face toward the screen where poor Mei Fei is probably holding her breath, and says he's too sick to hold court.
He fakes an illness. He shuts down the government for the day rather than have a fight.
It is total capitulation, and because he won't act, others have to. Yang Guifei throws the hairpins on the ground and leaves. But the danger isn't gone. And this is where we get the tragedy of the small yellow gate.
The young eunuch who saw the whole thing. He sees Yang Guifei's fury, she'll be back, and if she finds Mei Fei there, it's going to be a disaster.
A bloodbath. So he makes an executive decision. He hustles Mei Fei onto a horse and sends her back to her palace. He's trying to save her life.
It's the most rational, loyal thing to do in that situation. He's protecting everyone. But when the emperor finally peeks out and realizes she's gone, he doesn't thank the eunuch.
Yeah. He executes him.
Just orders him beheaded on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
That moment just stops you cold. Up until then, it's almost been funny. But then a man loses his head. Why? Why kill the messenger?
Because the emperor can't kill the real source of his frustration. He's too scared of Yang Guifei to punish her, and he feels too guilty to blame Mei Fei, so he projects all of that rage and humiliation onto the easiest target he can find.
The powerless servant who saw him at his weakest.
It's a classic tyrant's move.
Yeah.
You destroy the witness to your own failure.
God, it just shows the cruelty underneath all this so-called romance. So the eunuch is dead, Mei Fei is back in her cold palace, and the emperor's solution is what? Retail therapy.
That's basically it. He gathers up the broken hairpins, wraps them up with a bushel of tribute pearls, and sends them to Mei Fei. He's trying to buy his way out of guilt.
And her response is just, is the emotional core of the whole story. She rejects the pearls, she keeps the old hairpins, the symbol of their past, but sends the new wells back.
And she writes that incredible poem, One Bushel of Pearls.
It's devastating. She talks about her makeup mixed with tears and then the crucial lines about the long gate.
We have to talk about the Long Gate. That is a very specific historical callback, right?
It is. It refers to Empress Chen from the Han Dynasty, who was deposed and locked away in the Long Gate Palace. By using that phrase, Mei Fei is saying, I am a historical tragedy happening in real time.
She's telling him, you can't buy your way out of abandoning me. I don't need pearls to comfort my loneliness. I needed you, and you were too weak.
And the Emperor's reaction to this cry of pain just captures his character so perfectly. He reads it, he's unhappy, but he's also impressed.
So impressed that he orders the music bureau to set it to a new tune.
It's so narcissistic. He takes her genuine suffering and turns it into an art object.
He turns her pain into a pop song. It lets him feel sentimental about her misery without actually having to do anything to fix it. He can listen to the song and feel sad while she's still locked away.
And of course, Yang Guifei hears about the gift and the poem, and she just gets angrier. The text says she plots to harm Mei Fei even more. The Emperor's half-baked attempt to fix things only put Mei Fei in more danger.